Hi everyone, good evening. My name's Mel, and I am going to be talking to you tonight about traveling and tracking. So, just a few details about myself. I have been a coach with WAG since 2016. I am originally from Australia. I moved to Canada in 2012. And since then, I've lived in Mexico, Belgrade, Cyprus, Spain, and done a few trips back and forth. Today, I'm coming to you from Belgrade in Serbia, and I am on day 26 of living in a hotel. So, I'm going to share some of my tips and tricks and things to keep in mind when traveling overseas or just traveling in general. I know that sometimes it can seem a little daunting, the thought of having to track or tracking sort of whilst you're away because you're out of your comfort zone. We don't have access to the things we usually do. So it can be a little bit scary, but with practice we get better, and it's all an experience. So I guess one of the sorry, I've got some notes here just in case I forget because no doubt there's a lot I need to talk about. Okay, so if we are traveling via aeroplane, so organizing your flight day is something that can seem a little bit hectic at times. So things that I find to be really helpful are researching more about the airports that you're traveling through. So finding out what food options are available in the airports. If you're traveling long haul, we have the option of ordering and changing our meals on the planes. I would suggest if you can, I always try and take as much of my own food as possible, just because obviously it's a lot easier for me to control. I like the taste of my own food, and also there's just going to be less sodium and that type of thing. With the airports, you'll find that no matter what I found, no matter where in the world I am, there's always going to be pretty much the same stuff. So in terms of you can always get salads, you can always get protein from the places that typically sell salads. We have sushi. There'll be the little like kiosks that have, Greek yogurt, boiled eggs. If you can pack cans of tuna and salmon in your bag, that can be great too. Jerky, that's nuts, fruit, so all that kind of stuff. Hi, girls. So all that stuff is great for your travel day. I make wraps sometimes to pack in my bag. Like it all depends how much room I've got, and if I've just got hand luggage or if I'm actually traveling with checked bags. So taking as much of your own food can be like a huge help. Also, just on the travel day. So if you know you're going to be out of the house for a really long time, making sure that you have like a substantial breakfast in the morning. I try and get most of my protein or a lot of it first thing in the morning, and that's just so that I stay nice and full for the most part of the day. And also, just as we all know, protein's always the hardest to get when you travel. So you pretty much won't have any issues in getting carbs or fats while you're like in your travels, but protein can be difficult. So get as much of that from home as you can. The other thing that I find really useful is airport lounges. So if you don't have access to it, like via your credit card or whatever, sometimes the 1 day passes are actually like reasonable, maybe 25, depends where you are. But they seem to be pretty reasonably priced, and they always have great foods in there in terms of salads, lean meats, and that type of thing. So you might find that paying for a pass just for the day is actually more economical and gives you a better choice of food than it would if you were just having to like eat uh, in the airport at the restaurants that are there if you don't have food with you or if you're traveling through. And it can also just be a nice place to chill and like reset and have time to yourself, because being in airports for extended periods of time sometimes aren't very fun. So they're just some things to consider with your flight. Now, in terms of your accommodation, so when I travel, sometimes I'll do a combination of both. So sometimes we might stay in Airbnbs or apartments, and then other times we'll stay in hotels. So I'm in Belgrade right now, as I said, and I'm staying in a hotel for a month. So, and then I'm moving from here and going to an actual apartment. So the way I've been eating here is obviously going to change. Uh, but knowing what you have available to you in terms of your ability to be able to like prep your food is obviously really important. So before things I think that are important to consider, like before you book your accommodation, sometimes a hotel might actually seem like it's a difficult concept, but we seem to have been making it work really well. Like you have to be creative, but it also, in in some cases, might end up being cheaper than if you're in an apartment, believe it or not. But so if you are going to stay in an Airbnb, then of course you're going to have the ability to be able to cook all your own food and that type of thing. So where you choose to stay will more so just be, up to you. But things that you need to consider are obviously why you are where you are. So are you there for work or are you there on vacation? So if you're there on vacation, then you might want to stay close to certain things, tourist attractions, whatnot. So of course we're going to research, find out where our grocery stores are, where the local markets are, that type of thing. Food is typically cheaper when you buy it from the market. And most definitely depending on where you are. But having like a grocery store handy is obviously going to be pretty important. The other thing is meal services and delivery services that are in the local area. So most countries always have delivery services. So here in Belgrade, I've used one a couple of times to get vegetables sent to me. Here, which has actually been really awesome. So I can get lots of salad in the hotel, but I haven't been able to get as many veggies. So I've ordered veggies a couple of days. So that's something else to consider. Now, if you are in a hotel, then finding out what it is in your hotel room is going to be key. So at the moment where I am, I don't have a microwave, I have a fridge. So that's meant that there are certain things that I can't cook. If you do have a microwave, then you have the ability, to be able to cook things like your egg. You can pretty much cook anything. So your eggs, you can cook rice, you can cook frozen vegetables, like all of that type of thing. And I mean, those containers, like microwave containers, are pretty cheap. If you can find like a dollar store in the area that you're staying in, you can pick that stuff up, or you could even bring it from home. Now, because I didn't have a microwave, what I did instead was I actually went out and bought a little toasted sandwich maker that cost me about 20 US, and I've been able to cook protein in it. So I've been able to cook meat in it with baking paper. So that's been really helpful because, as I said, there's certain things that you can keep in the fridge. So I'm able to keep salad and dressings, yogurt, and all that type of thing, but I still need to be able to get my protein, and so we've been cooking that here. Now, what else did I have? Yes. So the other thing with obviously wherever you're staying, have a look at what does the hotel actually offer. So again, it might be that you can get a lot of the things within the hotel if you ask. So here, the hotel that we are staying in here, there's actually a lounge, and that's the case in a fair few hotels. So if you do the math on it and you inquire, you might find that it might actually be cheaper for you to get access to, say, a lounge that's in the hotel that offers food throughout. So here that we have access to salads and vegetables, well, not vegetables, but salads and deli meats and whatnot throughout the day. So in that case, when you do the math and you do the cost analysis, it's probably cheaper for us to be here than it would be if we were eating out all the time. So that's something to consider. Also, I guess same goes with the buffet breakfast. So if you're in a hotel and it offers breakfast, you might find that it's worth paying, if you have to pay a fee, paying the additional fee for you to go and have an epic breakfast where you can eat all the salad, all the fruit, all the protein that you like. And most hotels don't mind if you take if you're taking boiled eggs. and that type of thing from the breakfast. So that stuff will help you out throughout the day. Uh, Other things to consider are so when you're actually overseas, or depending on where you are, if the country isn't an English speaking country, so things that I have found to be helpful is to translate ahead of time. So I'll always look at the common foods that I typically eat and then translate what that is in the foreign language. That way, I'm not sort of standing there looking stumped, which, trust me, I still do that. But it's I know what I'm looking for when I go into the supermarket, so that helps. Also, just expect that the foods are not going to be the same, because you might find similar things, but it's likely that you're not going to find the exact same brands and whatnot that you have at home, which is kind of cool because that means that you're forced to try new things. So, which is the reason why we travel, because we get to experience new things. So, one of the other things, so labels is a big thing. Where we are now, none of the fiber is included in any of the carbohydrate total. So on the back, I always double check the labels, and I'll pretty much always manually input every single one for the foods that I am eating consistently, and that's just so that I know that it's correct. And also just the variance in the labels, is it could be different, and most of the time they're in a different language. So you just have to, if you can find one, or what I typically do. So I'm in Serbia, as I said, and there is no way I can read Serbian. It's not like Spanish where I can sort of make heads or tails of it. Like it's not going to happen. So I've happened to find one that labeled on a different product that had English and Serbian. So I just took a photo of that. So I now know what fiber is in Serbian. So when I'm looking at the label, I can just look back in my phone and make the association, because they don't always list all of the macros either, which is a little bit strange. But it is what it is. What else did I have to talk about? Yes. So other things that can be really helpful is when you are packing your bags to come here, think about the basic bits and pieces that you might use, so that you don't have to go out and buy them again. So I mentioned earlier about the microwave egg poachers and that type of thing. If you can fit that stuff in your bag and make room for it, I highly suggest that you do. So in your hotel room, some people might not want to prepare food because they don't want the mess and that type of thing. But if you go and spend, say, a couple of dollars on some dishwashing liquid and a sponge and whatever else, and you can keep your room tidy where you're cooking that stuff, it makes the world of difference. And so bringing those kind of things is helpful. If you can bring, or you don't mind packing a little, had I have known, I probably would have bought my little toasted sandwich maker from somewhere else, but instead it was easier for me just to pick one up here. So if you have a waffle iron or something that you are attached to that you want to bring with you, and you can make room for it, then I would totally do that, because it is super helpful. So again, if you've got a little fridge in your in your room, then just making sure that you can fill that up with as many of your own treats and snacks as possible. So go to the grocery store, load it up. And then if you do want to eat out some nights, obviously that's more than okay. But, controlling as many of your meals as you can is going to be super helpful too. And so even if you can buy some food and you have some of your own, you can always mix and match. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. Other thing to consider is water while you're away. I know it's simple, but staying hydrated just is super important. And when you're on the go and out and about, it's really easy to forget that. But, if we're drinking during the day, we're less likely to, get super hungry. So making sure that we're carrying a full water bottle. But, when you're traveling through the airport, make sure you've got your empty water bottle so that you're once you're through security, you can fill it up and you are ready to go. Now, let me see if there was anything else. So, was there any questions anyone had? I see there's a few people here on, but any questions anyone had, or tips that they needed, or advice? I'll just wait a couple of minutes. Okay. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you have a wonderful Friday. Thanks so much.